Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Lokashankaram Samastajana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vitvaram Om Shanti 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 Om Bhadram Karne Vishnuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashye Maksha Virya Jatraha Sthirairangai Tushtuvagum Sastanubihi Vyashema Devahidam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Viddashravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishvavedaha Swasti nastarksho Arishtanemihi Swasti no Brihaspati Dadatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. That one all-pervading absolute truth, Brahman, in this Upanishad, identified with the creative matrix indicated in the Upanishad as Maya, is denoted by the term Prajapati in this Upanishad. Brahman identified with Maya, called Prajapati, manifests as Prana, energy, and Rai, matter principles. Then, through seeming interactions, this energy principle and matter principle unfolds as the spatial, temporal, and object dimensional identities. The first interaction manifested the sun and the moon principles, and this is related to the spatial dimension of creation. The second interaction between the sun and the moon principle took the form of the year, the month, and the day, which represents the temporal or time dimensional entities. The activities associated with this time division were classified further in this Upanishad as those which liberate and those which bind. Some of them were visionary in nature, long-term, strategic, which is indicated by that associated with the year. Some of them are tactical, indicated by the month, and some of them are to be followed daily, which is to be understood as they are temporary. We saw that the year could be divided into two, the month activities could be divided into two, and the daily activities also could be divided into two. Then the Upanishad moved on to the third principle, which is called the food principle or annam, in the dimensions of objects. Appearing as the seed, this annam or food principle forms the microscopic building block for the creatures, which are all manifestation of Prajapati only. The food principle, which is predominantly matter, meaning Rai, carries within itself a very small aspect of prana energy, in the form of a life principle. This was indicated and denoted by the term retus or seed. This retus or sperm or seed becomes the cause by which all creatures propagate throughout this entire creation. This is the answer to the query, Bhagavan, Kuteha va imaha prajaha prajayanta. And this brings an end to the response which was indicated by the ithi in the Brahmana that we saw last session. I presume this concept is clear to all of you now. So, Upanishad is a science. It is trying to connect that which we are experiencing to that which is not known to us. So, that we are experiencing, it just dwells on it only as an indicative manner and gives us the pointer to that which we do not see or do not perceive, but we have to know. The focus of the Upanishad is not to explore the variety of what creation is, but only point you out to certain aspects of creation which enables our intellect to jump and make the leap and connect the dots to look at what is beyond. What is beyond even our ken of understanding. The best it can do is give us the pointers. So this is not a discussion of what came first, whether the matter came first or time came first, etc. But it is designed to take us to the ultimate. Chandruji, you have a question here?
Hariom Swamiji, sorry to disturb you, but there is an audio problem. There is a background sound which is coming, which is disturbing.
Let me see if I can fix that. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that.
I think it's a washing machine from somebody's background. That's the sound of a machine.
Okay, let me give me 1 second. Okay, now how is it now?
Still the sound is coming.
Vibration sound is coming.
Let me do one thing. Maybe I should just change my computer because I...
Hariom. You can put your earplug, then the, you have put your earplug.
Okay. I've got it, yes. Okay. It's still not better?
No, the audio is very good now.
It's good now? Shall I move forward?
Yes, sir.
Chandruji, okay? So as I was telling you, the Upanishad is talking about a higher principle than what is visible to us. The objective science in this world is only focused on expanding our knowledge of what we already perceive. But we have not understood it properly, so it dwells deeper and deeper into space, time and objects. How they came to be, what is their interaction, what is the equation between them, etc. But the scope of Upanishad is not what is perceived by spatial or temporal or object dimensional variations and entities, but it is focusing on that which is beyond all three. The focus is not even on Prajapati, the focus is on Brahma. That we have to keep in mind when we look at Upanishadic knowledge. Otherwise, we will assume that Upanishad is exactly talking about what science or physics or maths or chemistry is explaining to us, and probably these subjects do a much better job of explaining rather than the Upanishad. So that is where we have to stop looking at Upanishad as being on par with science, but look at it as something that is going to take us beyond what science is trying to explain. Okay. Next slide, please. So in our journey, we saw that the student takes the guru and the disciple and preceptor gain a mental, physical proximity, and through austerity for the body and brahmacharya for the mind and shraddha in the intellect, they actually pose the questions which have been plaguing in their mind. And the first question we saw is, how are creatures created and how are they sustained? So the Guru starts explaining energy and matter as the first pair, luminance and borrowed luminance as the second pair, which is sun and moon principle. Vision of time and activity, higher activities and lower activities, and lower vision, higher vision. And definitely the higher vision is the one which puts an end to the cycle of birth and death. The lower vision will create other pairs, the pair of the month, which is the Shukla and Krishna Paksha, and the pair during the day, which is Ahar and Ratri, which means whether we live with a condition and moderation in our life or we live a life of indulgence. That is what is meant here. Irrespective of what we do, ultimately when it comes to progeny, it is the material aspect of creation that is propagated, not the energy aspect. Energy is associated with Brahman, closer to Brahman, and therefore that it is what that is more eternal compared to material, which is going through a cycle of birth and death. Now, this moderation in activity is thus the means for liberation, will come out in the next mantra. Okay, I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to log out for 1 second and I will join back again. Mahesh, kindly pause the recording. I'll join back and then you can resume again. Okay, that's all. So what we have seen is that moderation in activity thus is the means for liberation. That we will see in the Brahmana 15. And then the Brahmana 16 continues to define what are the paths for liberation and what is the path to be found. We'll see that the way these two mantras are connected also will become obvious as we go through it. Let's see the details of these Brahmanas. Okay, let's go. Tadye havai tat prajapativatam charanti te mitunamutpadayante teshamevaisha brahmaloko yesham tapo brahmacharyam yeshu tatyam pratishtitam. Tat, thus, ye, those, tat, that, prajapati vratam, the rule of Prajapati, charanti, observe, follow, te, they, mitunam, a pair, utpadayante, produce. Yesham, of those, tapaha, penance, brahmacharyam, abstinence, yeshu, in whom, satyam, truth, pratishtitam, established, tesham, there, evaha, verily, eshaha, this, brahmalokam, the heaven of Brahma. See, the path of progeny and the path of higher worlds is covered in this mantra. The path of liberation will be covered in the next Brahmana. Okay. So in this Brahmana, the path of progeny is covered in the first half, which says, this being so, those who undertake the well-known austerity, control or moderation, defined as the focus on the Lord of all creatures, Prajapati, we get a pair of male and female offsprings. The path of progeny, path of continuing life according to Dharma. Path of higher worlds, for them alone, in whom there is also, in addition to this knowledge of the Prajapati Vratam, they maintain a higher level of spiritual practices often involve a high degree of self-discipline, solitude, and periods of deep meditation. They have a celibate lifestyle indicated by brahmacharya, and in whom is always found the absolute avoidance of falsehood. This world of Brahman here, it refers to abode of mains, Pitrulokam. So for those who are, in addition to maintaining control in the world outside, inwardly they are maintaining a very disciplined lifestyle indicated by a Vedic way of life. See, the Vedic way of life is not to say that there are injunctions which should be followed. The Vedic way of life is to say that we should maintain an inner control and then we should actually lead our life. Next slide will become clearer. Let's go into it. That, this being so. What being so? Whatever we have studied and understood so far being so, summarizing, those, who are those? The householders. Havai. Ha and Vai are two indeclinables in Sanskrit, as they call it. And together, they call up to our mind some well-known fact. Herein used in the sense of indeed, as is well known. That is the way you have to understand Havai. Charanti means undertake. Tat Prajapati Vratam. That vow of the Lord of all creatures. Ritu Kala Gamanam is what we have to understand as Prajapati Vratam. Why do we say Ritu Kala Gamanam? Because Prajapati himself first became the two pairs, and then he became time, and then he decided to become the two kind of activities that are associated with the time dimension. So Ritu Kala, Ritu means season, Kala means time, Gamanam means according to the season and according to the time one should perform activities indicated by a life of moderation, which consists of one, living with one's wife as per dharma samskaras. Ritukala Gamanam in the proper season, proper place, with a proper intention, appropriate time of year, month and day, and intention is indicated here. The key is not just the year, month and day, the key is intention. So if we approach even the most powerful emotion of all human beings, which is actually the attraction for the opposite sex, if you can approach it with moderation, with a proper understanding that this particular impulse is being created by Prajapati to fulfill his desire for propagation of life, not for my own personal like or dislike, not for my own personal gain or loss, not for my own understanding that this boy or child belongs to me. This boy or child belongs to Prajapati. And then one lives in this world following dharma and performing noble deeds, meaning avoiding all negativities in our life. For them, this visible result is they beget Mithunam, pair. Here it means both male and female. So they can get both male and female children. That is what is indicated. And in this chart on the right hand side, if we are not a mumukshu and we are not having a dharmic life, at least if we can moderate our desires, then yes, a life of offspring is assured. But if you decide that you are not going to moderate, then you go back to this cycle again and again, giving you an option either to become a mumukshu or dharmic or moderate your desire, till at one point of time you realize that that is what I should be doing. So we have to rise ourselves from an uncontrolled animalistic behavior, which is just taking us through birth, desires, unmoderated life, again birth, again unmoderated desire. That cycle is what animals do. only in human being there is an opportunity to moderate your desires because of the higher knowledge that this entire creation does not belong to me alone. It is Prajapati's desire. It is God's desire. It is Ishvara's sankalpa. That is why I am here at this point in time and space and objects. This is the form I have taken by his desire. And what should I do? I should ensure that his desire is fulfilled. My desires are only his desires. And his desires will be noble, it will not be ignoble, because for him the entire creation is one single object. Whereas for me, I exist, the world exists, and the people around me exist, they are all different from me. And therefore we have quarrels, we have issues, we have challenges. With our own children, with our own parents, with our own neighbors, with our own relatives. Understand and look at all jivas in this life and moderate your interaction with them. And even in this desire of attraction between the sexes, please moderate it so that you will get offspring, but you will also be able to gain that mumukshutvam, or at least gain a greater desire to become dharmic in life. So you can go through cycle of birth and death if you are evolving. Going through cycle of birth and death without evolving spiritually or at least dharmically is a useless life. That is what is indicated by this Brahmana 1.15. First part. Next slide, please. Tesham, for those who are going through this cycle, but they have turned towards dharma focus. See, earlier the focus was kama. You remember I mentioned there are 4 purusharthas. Artha, kama, dharma and moksha. So far what we saw is the kama pradana life, meaning desire alone is important in my life. Fulfilling of desires is the key to life. But I will exercise moderation because I understand that I am not the one who is desiring, it is the desire of the Lord. So in Karma Yoga we do that Ishvararpana Buddhi is what we hear, right? So that Ishvararpana Buddhi in our activities automatically moderates our activity. That we saw in the previous mantra. This is for general grahasthas who are not able to abide in the Vedic lifestyle, which is very difficult, actually, it's not easy. But they can moderate their desires with an attitude that everything is Ishwararpanam. It is only for the sake of the Lord that I am involving in activities, not for my own personal sake. If you can control that, then gradually it will become easier through a couple of cycles of birth and death to start having a dharmic life. Now, in dharmic life, there are 2 possibilities. We saw no, not a dharmic life, meaning I do not know dharma, at least moderate your desires. But if I know dharma, then there are 2 possibilities. One, I have dharmic desires, or I am totally desireless. So, nishkama is the Sanskrit word used, right? So, this says, Tesham eva, for them who undertake all this Vedic lifestyle, which is consisting predominantly of sacrificing ourselves for the sake of the higher cause, and do public good, offer gifts, donations, all that we do today. And many of us are in that category, where we always spend our life not just for ourselves, but we actually donate and contribute to the society around us. Not for personal gain. It comes because they are all part of me alone through the ultimate Lord. This unseen result consisting of Brahmaloka, the world of Brahman, which is the world of the moon, the path of the mains, that is Chandrayana. We saw that, right? Chandra path of the moon, right? That moon, they will get it if they have tapas. Tapas means a little degree of austerity in life. You should be able to restrain your life, focusing on what is right and ought to be done rather than what is desired. This ought to be done at this point of time between the cup of coffee and my responsibility to my family. I would rather do my responsibility than run after my cup of coffee. That is called tapas. Rather than, spending and eating like a hog, I will moderate my food so that more beings in this world can share whatever this food is. I will moderate my expenses so that I can save and give back to this society in which I live. All this is tapas only. In the Karma Kanda portion, this tapas is elaborately described as yajna, yaga, etc. In those days, people did not have such a complex lifestyle like us, so the focus was on tapas and yajna. Brahmacharyam means consisting of not living with one's wife at times other than proper time. Meaning we just don't indulge in our sensory pursuits unless it is the right time and place to do so. That is very significant because you are able to restrain the impulses of your senses, which is called dhamma in Sanskrit. In the sixfold wealth, you will see there is a term called shama and dhamma, right? Dhamma is what is called as brahmacharyam here in this context. Yeshu, in whom again satyam, truthfulness, avoidance of falsehood is ever present. But I don't even say that there is a need for me to be true. I don't say I should be true because it will benefit anybody. You say I will be true because it is my nature. That is what is meant by satyam here. Satyam means to be truthful is my nature. Why? Because I am truthful, nothing else, no other reason, not because it is going to benefit me or others, etc. That is called satyam. For them, this world of Pitrulokam is ordained. Why Pitrulokam? What is lacking in their noble lifestyle? What is lacking in their noble lifestyle is that mumukshutvam, which is the impelling force for liberation. They still believe that this world is real and this world has got joys and sorrows in it. So that difference in the attitude makes them decide whether they are going to go for liberation or they are going to go to Pitrulokam. Gradually, when you recognize this world's joys that you are seeking and enjoying and involving in are not worth anything, which leads to desirelessness, which is nishkama dharma. I do dharma because it ought to be done. I have no personal desires in even following dharma. That desirelessness also will give rise to liberation, but that liberation is called krama mukti. Why is krama mukti in that yes on the top part of the diagram says liberation is attainable. But why krama mukti? It is krama mukti because you still believe I should follow dharma. That I is still in you. Therefore, only krama mukti. Only Brahmaji can remove that I-ness in you in his proximity. That is why dharmic lifestyle leads to krama mukti if you can avoid desires or selfish activities. But if you still moderate between desirelessness and desires, noble desires here, we are talking about noble desire, you will continue through Pitrulokam, come back and get another chance to become mumukshu or become desireless, depending upon the spiritual evolution of the jiva. Okay, now next slide, please. The Upanishad moves on to the 16th Brahmana. Tesham eso virajo brahmaloko na eshu jihmanamrutam na maya cha iti. Iti Prashnopanishadi pratamaha prashnaha. This is the end of the first query in Prashnopanishad. Yeshu, in whom, jihmam, deceit, anrutam, which is falsehood, na, not, maya, guile or delusion, cha and na, not tesham, there, asau, that, viraja, pure, brahmalokena, the world of Brahman. There is a difference between Pitrulokam, there is a difference between Brahmalokam and that which is called pure Brahmalokam, Viraja Brahmalokena. Viraja means pure. There is no taint. Taint in Vedantic parlance has got two things, I and mine. If you have minus, then you are in this world. Because when you say my, you've already assumed that something else has got a reality status, correct? But I can withdraw from all that is around me by removing minus, but if I still hold on I, then you are still bound. So this pure Brahmalokam is when you give up both I and mine. When you give up mine, you will reach Brahmaji. See, Brahmaji does not have any personal desire. He wants this entire world to be created, sustained, and resolved. He is not doing it because he has got any personal like or dislike in any particular aspect of it. He is doing it because he says, I have to do it. Why? The scriptures have said so. But he still has that I notion. Ishvara has an I notion, that is why he is wielding Maya. One who rises above even this I notion, however noble it may be, such a person alone gets the world of Brahman. That is what is indicated by the term Viraja Brahmalokena here. The pure Brahmaloka belongs to them only in whom there is no deceit or there is no dissimulation, meaning there is no kind of misunderstanding in their thinking. See, evolution can really be progressive only in those who have given up all negativities in themselves. Deceit, falsehood, dissimulation, all these things are only to believe that there is something other than me to which I have to get engaged in. For them, this taintless world of Brahman in whom there is no crookedness, no falsehood and no dissimulation is what this Brahmana is telling. And thus ends the Upanishad. But we'll see this Brahmana a little bit more in detail. Let's go to the next slide, please. This brings us to the famous chart which we left in the last Brahmana. Now we are talking about one who is a mumukshu. One who believes that this world has got nothing for me, I only want that absolute truth. A person who has got moksha pradhana as his goal, not dharma, not kama, definitely not artha, of course. And this is indicated in this Upanishad in the earlier part by the northern path, Uttarayana, correct? You remember we studied that? And that is the path of the sun, meaning indicated by that aspect of Prajapati which is towards uplifting our identity towards the Brahman himself, which consists of self-identification with prana and is viraja, pure, not tainted like the lunar Brahmaloka. Lunar Brahmaloka is tainted because the material aspect of Prajapati is pulling it down. Not subjected to waxing and waning. Asau, that one, Tesham, is for them, for whom it is being clarified that it is for those, na yeshu jihmam, those who do not have any deceit, no crookedness. See, typically householders in whom sometime or the other there is an inevitable desire, inevitable exigency to cross the boundaries of dharma. It comes, that is called path of pleasant and path of goodness, opens up for householders. And when they seek the path of pleasant, there is always a possibility, a contingency, because in their life contradictory interactions are there. They have attachments to objects, people and experiences, and therefore they may make wrong choices. that attachment aspect of their life is there in all householders. We have to remember that and accept it as the truth. There's no point in hiding that. That is why you're a householder. The house is holding you and you're holding the house. Gurudev interestingly says, you think you're holding the house, he says the house is holding you. And then, example, he uses a nice term, bazaar rich people, meaning those rich people who are in the realm of business transaction and all that. They will shout, saying, if I'm honest, it will ruin my business. But heart of heart, they want everybody around them to be honest so that they can be dishonest. That is called deceit. Deceit is that I alone should win, others should lose. They all should follow and follow the rules and regulation and remain good. And I will keep on indulging, which is what Duryodhana did. He wanted Pandavas to become good and noble and leave everything to him, and he will do whatever manmani things he wants. So this, why he had attachment to the power and the position and the name and the fame. Whenever there is attachment, there is a possibility that dharma gets sacrificed. That is why detached lifestyle is recommended for those who are in the path of spiritual liberation. Deceit is a declaration of the physical cowardice in the individual. Meaning that I am internally not bold. And therefore, I follow deceit. Deceit is only when you don't have absolute faith in yourself. Understand that. One who is very sure of himself will never follow deceit. Deceit is to assume other person is better than me. Therefore, I need to do something. Right? Whereas one who believes that he is right will never think of other person at all. He will just follow what is right. This is the mental crookedness that has to be avoided, and this is something that creeps into people who have attachment. Again, we are talking about householders. When you start compromising on small things in life because of your attachment, my child is misbehaving in school, but being my child, I would like him to be pardoned. Whereas if the other child misbehaves with my child, I will shout rules and regulations at the school. We've seen this. Many places you'll find this. When it comes to mine, all rules will be dropped. There is an interesting joke. It says that if it is my daughter-in-law, she takes bath every week. And if it is my daughter, she takes so frequent bath every year. I mean, once a year she does, but the tone tells you what the difference is. That desire to moderate our behavior, not for the right way of living, but for personal gains and loss, is called deceit. And we lead to excessive attachment to objects, people, and experiences is the cause for it. When we have too much attachment, this will be the result. And Gurudev says it incorporated falsehood, meaning you have made that falsehood your way of life. It is very difficult to come out of that when you have made it as acceptable to you. Duryodhana says that famously in Mahabharata. He says, I know dharma, but I cannot follow it. And I know adharma is to be avoided, but I cannot resist following it. That is called incorporated falsehood. That is why he had to be put to an end, and which happened naturally. It robs one of the capacity to execute and achieve great things in life. And when we read all this, I'm sure all of us, you would be thinking back, looking at our own lives and say, oh, we made all those mistakes, now I understand it. Let's not regret for the mistakes of the past. Don't look at anything that you have done past. This is only knowledge now. It only tells you, if you have done mistakes in the past, understand they were out of some compelling attitude in you, but now you are not all that because your focus is mumukshutvam, the liberation. The moment your focus has shifted, dharmic and desire moderated life is not even prescribed for you. Why so? Let's see it in the next slide. Typically, brahmachari, vanaprastha, and sannyasi, the three orders of ashramas in life, they are typically satyavrata. Satyavrata means one who takes to life of truthness. Why? Because they don't have any need for falsehood. Brahmachari is only learning, so he is open. You see how children are so innocent, and we all love to watch them because they represent what we should have been. And Vanaprastha has experienced life, he has no more desires. Sannyasi has taken to this path of detachment because he realizes his goal is not worldly gains. So all three of them are Satyavrata. Whereas in Grahastha, this Anrutam component creeps in, so we need some control. Why? Because of life situations. So Grahastha's life is actually more difficult than Brahmachari and Vanaprastha and Sannyasa. Believe me, we are Arjunas in battle, continuously battling. And Gurudev says you must have an alert and vigilant life only for us, not for others. Others, by nature, they are protected. For us, we have to protect ourselves from within and also from without. Because we are engaged, there is transactions bombarding us day in, day out. Now this session is there, and imagine how many compulsions we have. I may not be able to join this session, I've got that to do, I've got this to do. What does all that mean? It means that we are bombarded, we have to choose, and we are compelled to even choose sometimes the wrong things in life. I cannot forcefully tell my children, I'm sorry, this webinar is important to me. I cannot do that because I'm living in their house and they have told me that, okay, you can do whatever you want as long as we are allowing you to do it. If you're staying alone, you're staying in a place where there's no such impediments, you'll find something else creeps in. The dinner bell, they will tell you 7 o'clock you must come and eat if you're in a senior citizen place. If you come at 7:15, probably 4 dishes will not be available for you. Imagine the mind, it will constantly look at Anrutam. Let me give an excuse and walk away from this because anyway I can catch up. But food and other things I cannot catch up because they are time driven. They are temporal objects, right? Time lost is time lost. So we always are controlled by time, we are controlled by objects, and we are controlled in space. If I am not here in the ashram, my mind wavers. If I am not available at the time when the session starts, my mind has gone away. Unlike householder, there is no reason for guile or the effect of maya, which is delusion, in the life of a brahmachari, vanaprastha, and sannyasi. Guile is a kind of a false behavior, pretending publicly to be one way and actually being the opposite. See, typically what happens in a householder's life is we present something outside and internally we are something else. Why are we presenting something outside? Because we have attachment to people, objects, and experiences. So we tone our behavior to match the counter expectations from those objects, people, and experiences. So what we do is, even though I am dishonest, but I am sitting in front of Bhagwan's Murti, I will pretend to be honest. And as long as everybody agrees that I look honest, my job is done. I don't have to be honest, I have to only look honest. This is a householder's view in life. I should be looking to be a Vedantin. I don't have to be a Vedantin. I should be respected as an elderly, knowledgeable person. I don't have to become knowledgeable. And when these pretensions fall off one by one through life experiences, we become miserable. The ability to sustain an image against a contradictory lifestyle is going to be pain for us. And that is why we all get ailments, not because of there is any physical problem. It is our own mind fighting against our own principles. Maya. In Brahmachari, Vanaprastha and Sannyasi, no faults exist because there's no occasions for them. Whereas when we start making small mistakes, they get compounded. One mistake leads to another. And at one point of time, we realize we're not in control at all. And then finally you say, I'm fed up with this world, and you will run into Vanaprastha if you're in a Grahastha. When you realize that actually you are not in control, till you actually pulled yourself away from this world. The Brahmachari, Vanaprastha, Sannyasi, they could gain the untainted world of Nirguna Brahman, and depending upon the consonants and the disciplines they take, which is called Sannyasi. Or if he is a Brahmachari or Vanaprastha, they can also reach the world of Saguna Brahma and get Krama Mukti, is what is indicated in this thing. And a Grahastha who adds penance, control and moderation and truthful into their life will get the cycle of mains, which means they can actually be reborn and become a Vanaprastha, Sannyasi or Brahmachari in their life as they go through this cycle. Otherwise, they will keep getting children, produce at best. That's all. This is a summary of entire 4 ashramas in the context of what it is and what it should be. The Upanishad is not going to mince words. The Upanishad is not going to tell you anything which is wrong. It has painted the picture. Now we have to figure out where we are in this picture. The good thing is we don't have to be disheartened wherever we are, because there is a way out to go to the path, provided you know what to do. And to do that, you have to make that sankalpa, the will, and get the blessing of the Lord to guide you into that path. It may take quite some time. This may not be done in overnight. Though I have heard that it can be done overnight also. There are cases in Puranas where overnight a person has become, Daku became a great scholar. Overnight. 1 minute he was killing people, next minute he just renounced himself, became Valmiki, and then composed the epic Ramayana. So in a minute it can happen. It will also take time, as in the case of few people. Muchkunda Maharishi also took long time for him to get realized. He actually withdrew himself from life. So anything can happen, but our job is not to look at when it will happen. Our job is to see what we should do and do it diligently. That's all, with full heart in it. Not for the results, but it is what I should be doing. I will do it. That attitude. With that, I think I have come to what I wanted to share. Next slide, please.